Good evening and welcome to Active Citizens Parliament. My name is Sharon Enemchuku. Joining me live in the studio, I have with me Mr. Ugochukwu Afuba and Ifoma Odi. Good evening, how are we doing?
Good evening, Sharon.
How are you doing?
Good evening, I'm okay.
Great, as usual.
Nice to have you back on the show, Mr. Ugochukwu.
It's okay.
Now we're going straight to the stories that we have for today. Tonight our focus is on a story starring anxiety officers over an alleged coup plot against President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Now, it's not just about Nigeria. It's part of a larger conversation sweeping across Africa from Burkina Faso to Niger, Mali, and even Madagascar. Several countries have witnessed coup or attempted coup in recent years, all fueled by political tension, insecurity, and economic frustration. So could what's happening in Nigeria be exactly what has happened in other regions, or is this simply a contained internal issue that's being overblown? And let's just take this particular story as it is hot right now. So for some days now, we've been talking about the coup plot that went down and how they've come to make that news public to Nigerians. Now, initially, when this came out, there were different reactions. A lot of people thought the presidency was making it up. We saw those comments on X. Other people were saying, if this is true, tell us the officers responsible for this particular coup. Let us know for a fact. Now, it seems the federal government heard or read those comments as they have come out now to detain 16 senior officers that were involved in this coup, and they went on to give more details about those 16 senior officers. But I'm tying this to the fact that it is happening in other nations as well. We saw what happened in Burkina Faso and what happened in Mali and the rest of them. And I'm saying, Ifoma, do we think that what is happening now or what is happening in other nations, in other African nations, would play out very soon, or it's already trying to play out in Nigeria?
Okay, I think it is going to play out soon, and maybe is already playing out soon too. It is going to play out soon because I think the public in general are tired. There is a lot of frustration in Nigeria. There is a lot of discontention in Nigeria. And it equally goes down to the military. We can see that this case is more like it's alarming and at the same time revealing. The military who are supposed to protect the country, we could see that they are having cracks within. They are not contented. There is mistrust with the government that they protect. For 16 of them, which I'm well aware that there are maybe more ringleaders that they are yet to be uncovered that are planning this coup. You understand? So it's because of the growing agitation and frustration going on in Nigeria that these people have come together to cook up or foil this coup.
All right. Now, since you're saying that is the exact same thing that happened in other African countries, that is also playing out here as a result of the coup attempts that we're seeing because of the frustrations Nigerians are facing. Now, I'm going to ask you, Mr. Ugochukwu, what do you think are the main triggers here of these coups in other countries, and are you seeing any of those truths happening in Nigeria?
Well, I think the main reason for this tension is political instability for other African countries and particularly for Nigeria. However, because we can see that this tension is gradually creeping into Nigeria. But I wish to categorically state that a military coup is not what Nigeria needs now. However, you might be tired with the present administration. I'm not trying to defend the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. You have failed Nigerians woefully. But then, I don't think a military coup is what we need. Because let's go back to history. Because we have to learn. In 1966, when Major General Ifa Juna Nzogbu and others plotted the coup, it was not really successful. as they planned it. Eventually it was Major General Agui Ironsi who took over, and a few months later, June of the same year, we had a counter coup. It was now looking like a rivalry between the Igbos and the Northerners. You see, and most times during these coups, we now have it's now looking like a personal war between the officers, because we now have ambition plays a role here. Everyone wants to be the military head of state, and eventually you see everything will crumble the more. So I don't think a coup is what we need now.
Advise Nigerians to head towards a coup for the governance of this nation.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to say the government is doing well.
No, that's perfectly understood. Now, so many analysts have come out to say that in other nations, the coup that has happened, they've been tagged popular coup, meaning that the people anticipated or wanted those coups as a result of bad governance, bad leadership, the state of the nation. And this is something that when you watch videos like that, you see them rejoicing even during a coup. Now, I'm asking, like Mr. Ugochukwu just said, the former, he doesn't think that a coup is the solution that we need in Nigeria. Let's take a look at what is going on in other nations like Burkina Faso, Niger, Mali, that they've had those coups, right? And they still have the military ruling even up till date. Comparing the countries, those African countries, and their development growth and process ever since the military came into power, would you think, based off of that Nigeria would thrive if we have the military in power?
Not at all. I think I will actually told the part of Mr. Ugochukwu. I think the coup is not what Nigeria needs at this point in time, because if I should go back to history, the coup that happened in history shows clearly that, corruption worsened, human abuse worsened, and the economy crippled the more. So in other countries, I believe that the citizens are equally discontented. They are not happy with the entire military rule and the rest of them. So it's not what Nigeria needs. I think what if I'm to, prescribe what Nigerians need right now, and the government is more like should serve as a wake-up call for the government to, look inwardly and see the reasons why these people are agitating. Why is this coup, coming up in the first place, and address the root causes of this coup.
To address the root causes, right? And if you ask the average Nigerian on the streets, Mr. Ugochukwu, they will tell you it's hunger. They will tell you their inability to access good education or good roads and bad infrastructure and all of that. So we know these things. We know the reason why Nigerians are agitated. But let's look at it. Let's try to predict. Let's get your prediction. If come 2027, Nigerians go for the presidential election, and after that election they feel as though it was not free and fair. Now that we've had a group of people, of military personnel who have even tried to have that coup, or to plan or orchestrate a coup against the sitting government, if after that 2027 election and Nigerians don't consider it free and fair, do you think that there will be further coup attempts, or maybe protests like what happened in Nepal, where they were able to unseat their ruling government?
Yes, I agree completely, because like I said earlier, this tension, it is slowly but steadily creeping into our political space. And I don't pray that things do not turn out well in 2027, because it will be bad for everyone. When there is tension and riots, it is not always good. And so that's why it is never good, exactly. So we urge the government, they need to do better. They need to do better. I agree that if come 2027 we don't have a free and fair election, the people are already agitating. The people they are tired of bad governance. So yes, there will be more agitation and possibly a coup, which, like I've said, it's not what Nigeria needs. So we hope the government that they do better.
Exactly. And still talking about African nation, there are reports, right? Although this very new report from Tanzania saying that after their presidential election yesterday, that the people of Tanzania went to the streets to protest against that election, because of how it was conducted. Now, this is that was the basis for me asking this question, because this election happened yesterday, 29th October. This is the 30th. We're already seeing protests, people hitting the streets, and it's not just in Tanzania. When you move over to Cameroon, weeks after the presidential election was conducted, we're seeing people in the streets protesting. Do you think, because we've had a lot of protests already in 2025 for a whole lot of reasons, do you think that in 2027 that protest would intensify, or because of the way the current government have been trying to sort of suppress dissent, do you think that that would be successful in 2027?
Yeah, I'm actually seeing, like I always say, a revolution in 2027 if this election doesn't go free and fair. Now, we already know that the public, the citizens of Nigeria already have that inbuilt anger for the government. The inflation, the bad governance, the job insecurity, and the rest of them. Everybody is tired, everybody is angry. You understand? And they say, just like they say, the Igbo adage, the English adage, an angry man
is a hungry man.
Is an angry man. So everybody is hungry. Everybody is angry. So on the part of the military, personnel, we remember months back that most of them were kind of agitating for their pension and their gratuity to be paid, which up to date, that issue or that case have not been addressed. So these people, for the fact that this Coup came in the first place, or came up in the first place, they have already envisioned themselves. If I retire, am I going to be doing the same thing with this military personnel that are retired already? So I think it was more like one of the things that fueled this particular coup that they were plotting. You understand? That is one. And then I know most definitely that most of them are equally clamoring for promotion. Most of them, their welfare is not well catered for. They are agitating for. So if they are being paid well, if they are being given enough equipment, they would be plotting Coup in the first place. And then Nigerians, if there is good governance, if there is job opportunities here and there, nobody will be angry, nobody will be agitated, nobody will take to the streets and protest.
Exactly. Now, still talking about the military, just as we wrap it up on this particular story, earlier this morning we talked about the new service chiefs that were appointed, and I wanted you to give your comments on that particular event that just occurred with the president appointing new service chiefs, linking that with the coup attempt. Do you think that there is any linkage to that? Is the presidency being proactive in this sense?
Well, isn't it obvious? Just few days after we heard about the alleged coup, and now we have these service chiefs. Well, I would say for the president, speaking for him, it's something right he should do, because you have to guard your house well. So that's a right move politically for him. But then beyond the political move and structure, we need to ask, how does it affect our national security? Because these service chiefs, there are people who are in charge of our national security. They are not just in charge of the president's security, but then Nigeria as a nation. So beyond the political structure of how the Coup and whatever they are plotting, we need to then look at how it affects our national security. Make sure, because the priority is not the presidency, but then the priority is for Nigeria to stand strong as a sovereign nation.
Thank you. For Nigeria to stand strong as a sovereign nation. Now, talking about the finances of our nation and the economy of our nation, tonight we also focus on the story that's hitting Nigerians right in the pocket. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has approved a 15% import tariff on petrol and diesel, a move that is expected to push fuel prices even higher. For millions already struggling with transport costs, food inflation, and power challenges, this decision could make life even tougher. So that is what we're discussing today as well. We're talking about the probable increase in fuel even as we move close to the celebration period, the December period, and all of that. Now I'm asking, with all of this happening, with this increase in fuel, we had that earlier in the year, and now we're seeing another increase. Do you think, if that this is signaling that the government has quietly returned to fuel import dependence?
Okay, I think they are trying to reduce importation, because 60% statistics has it that 60% Nigerians or companies import fuels, you understand? So we are well aware of that, and according to him, he said, the federal government said that the reason for this increment in importation cost is to protect local refineries, just like Dangote refineries, and not just that, to encourage Nigerian refineries to grow, you get, and many more reasons. So everything is fueled towards protecting the local refineries, and for people to protect, to produce more fuels locally rather than total dependence on imported fuels. But the thing here is that we are well aware that of course Nigeria is importing fuels massively, but at the same time, imagine a situation whereby a company kind of imports 200 million worth of fuel, and the clearance duty or the import duty is like 15 million naira. Now at the end of the day, they will pass these particular added fees plus their interest to the end users. Now who will suffer more? It might not really benefit or disadvantage the government, but the end users, which are Nigerian citizens that are clamoring already for increased, inflation in Nigeria. You're already agitating. So at the end of the day, you are still plunging people into more poverty. But I think this is well intentioned, but I think the timing is quite wrong.
So you think it is well intentioned? I understand that, and I'm also asking Mr. Ugochukwu now. Do you think that this move would erase the gains from fuel subsidy removal?
I doubt it will. Just like she said, I think the timing is very, very wrong. It is wrong at a time when Nigerians are suffering, because fuel, petrol, it is an essential part of production. Whenever the price of petrol increases, automatically every other thing, the price of every other product increases. Exactly, because we have the cost of production, and fuel is an essential part of it.
Because we lack electricity.
That's correct, because we lack electricity. But then, moving by when we have the fuel, we've already seen about removing the fuel subsidy, and it has affected Nigerians so much. And the presidency and the federal government, they always come out to talk about Tinubu, not economics. I don't know how they put it. That's about his economic plans and reforms, but then he has been saying that it is going to be hard, but at the long run, it's 2 years now. It's 2 years, not a long run.
Maybe they should specify how long.
Exactly.
2 years has been long.
Yeah, they should specify how long. So it would be interesting to see. I understand what you're saying, that this is not specified, and this is 2 years into the administration. They will tell you to be patient. So I've just reiterated that. But do you think that, if now with what we're saying this is not the right timing, Nigerians are suffering, but are there alternative ways you think that the government could raise revenue without deepening economic pain for Nigerians?
Yes, most definitely. I think there was one time we read in the news and we discussed that the federal government was making moves, or is it the Senate House was making moves on legalizing cannabis. You understand, planting cannabis and the rest of them, which I mentioned then that other countries are equally doing that, but it is how it is being monitored and is being implemented that will be a problem, over usage and the rest of them, not channeling it to the right, things that they're supposed to channel. I remember then that I mentioned that medically that, cannabis is kind of great advantage or importance. You understand? So there are so many ways they can actually, our agriculture, should I even talk about our agriculture? There are lots of things, but you see now farmers don't even have, the morale or the courage to go to their farms because of insecurity. So there are a lot of things that need to be fixed. This 15% import duty, for me, like I said earlier, is actually quite intentioned, but at the same time, it is properly or wrongfully timed.
All right.
In a situation whereby maybe they can do kind of implement it gradually. Stabilize the economy first of all, reduce the cost of fuel, which is the most important thing, because once fuel is high, it trickles to every other thing, food prices and the rest of them. So when you stabilize that, then maybe gradually, maybe not this year, we are tired already, maybe from gradually, exactly, you can implement that.
Okay, so the next year that we're talking about, we know that we still have taxes waiting for Nigerians in 2026. So that's a whole lot. So we are seeing in 2025, them making policies that will start working even ahead or before in 2026. It is interesting to see Nigeria. Now, we're still talking just finally, right, as we wrap up on this particular story, this particular fuel price hike that might befall Nigerians. Let's take a look at what this would mean for local refinery projects like Dangote's refinery. You know, do you think it would make it more or less competitive?
I don't think it would make it competitive because the federal government is empowering Dangote to monopolize the production of oil. See, that is one thing. That is how it is. There are many local producers, even here in the southeast, in Imo State, in Anambra State. But then we see the federal government supporting that. I'm not trying to say he's a businessman, he's an entrepreneur. He should get all the support he needs. But then he should not be centralized on one man to avoid monopoly. That is the point I'm trying to make.
I understand what you're saying. So you're saying that it shouldn't be monopolized. The entire everything shouldn't be monopolized
on one man.
On one man. But so you're not saying that maybe it would even maybe be the start where a lot of people might start getting into oil and trying to expand on it. Anyways,
otherwise.
Okay, you think otherwise?
I think it will actually, encourage more people to produce, become producers of, fuel locally. Because in the first time, why are they importing? The first time is because the people that produce locally are not producing enough for the consumption of Nigerians. You understand? So if this could actually happen, but not now, like I said earlier, I think it could actually encourage more people, motivate more people to start producing locally.
All right. Now, so because of what is going on now, are there immediate maybe steps or measures that we think that the government can take to cushion the effects of this possible fuel, price hike on Nigerians? Because they keep talking about pain. Nigerians would experience pain on the short term, but on the long term, there will be more and more benefits. But before even that long term, right? Because you have to be alive for you to see the benefits. So before then, what do you think the government should look at so that it can cushion the effect just a little bit, Mr. Ogochukwu?
Yeah, if like they've told us that it will be difficult, it will cost us. But then here is something they can do. They can focus on stabilizing the economy first. If one part will be difficult, there are many other ways to go, which include stabilizing the economy, other parts of the economy. Apart from on the petroleum, there are other aspects in production. Exactly. So they can start by making lives better for the average Nigerians. That is what then when things are better, they can now introduce these hard policies that we would feel. But now when an average Nigerian cannot even afford feeding, you see, these other policies just making life more difficult.
More difficult for the average Nigerian. Now, if you were to say anything as per recommendation for how the government can cushion the effect of their hard policies, like Mr. Ogochukwu rightfully said, what would that be?
Number one, they should stop borrowing.
But is it borrowing is part of our budget?
No, they should. They borrow
They
should stop borrowing first of all.
That's one.
Let's focus more on production. Let us be a productive economy rather than always acquiring loans and importing. You understand? Let us, like I've mentioned the first one. The second one, let's reduce importation. It is quite massive. That's number two. And then maybe number three, they can equally wire money into every night.
I agree.
In the comments. Anyways, what a wonderful conversation. Thank you so much, Ifeoma Odi, for your contributions today. Thank you, Mr. Ugochukwu, for joining us in the studio. We hope to see more of you as we progress. And of course, to our delectable viewers, thank you for joining and working with us right here in Active Citizens Parliament. It is always a pleasure to do this with you all. If you're joining for the first time, this is Active Citizens Parliament, where we discuss trending hot Nigerian political issues around and in Nigeria. And you can follow us across all social media platforms at Active Citizens. If you have not subscribed as well, this would be the perfect time to do so. You can also find me on my personal Instagram and Facebook page at Sharon Enemchukwu. And you
can find me on Facebook at Oji Sophia and on Instagram at Nisolex.
Let's go.
You can find me on Instagram, Facebook, and X at Ugochukwu Afoba.
All right. Till we come your way again tomorrow, do have a good evening.